Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the Council on Future Conflict, episode 524, where we'll be talking the LA ICE insurrection and terror in America, part 3. It's the third show in a row we've had that title. Joe, if only there was stuff to talk about. I mean, the weekend was so just nothing going on. And I mean, and let's be honest, nobody was talking about, say the dissolution of civil, society in America or anything along those lines. Oh, wait a second, Joe. We were talking about that. That's right.
The whole time.
It's been going on 2 weeks now that we've been reminding the great people in the chat. And let's be honest, chat. This is not aimed at you, because if you're here day in and day out, you're all the way in. You've already, you've got the full tactical wisdom library you've got the Gorilla's Guide to the Balfang. You probably even, back things that I've done, even though there's no preparatory guidance in them whatsoever. But the point to the matter is if there's still enough people that catch our show that just don't understand that, the world is going to blow up, and you only have what you have when the world blows up. It's kind of like, you can only tell people so many times. And I think this weekend, we were just talking about the scale of what happened this weekend. It wasn't widespread. It was kind of actually fairly limited, but it was fairly spectacular, though. But this should be a great wake-up call to a lot of people, especially people who live in big cities. Joe, urban areas are really susceptible to this, especially in the Southwest. We've had a multiple kind of aligning elements to this. You've got the neo-Marxist kind of core. You've got the ICE, counter-immigration stuff. You've got the La Raza stuff, the kind of the neo-Marxist, Reconquista movement, cultural Marxism piece from the Southwest. Chicano culture is kind of built into it. You've got the whole California versus the rest of America. So there's a lot of overlapping themes to, that made what happened this weekend happen. But hopefully it's a reminder and a wake up call to everybody out there that this shit could happen near you.
Well, the biggest indicator for me will be what happens today. It's Monday, beginning of the work week. Will things stop and then pick up again this weekend, or will they continue? But I think, given the rhetoric by the governor and by the mayor, it's going to continue because they're trying to whip people into a frenzy. And I'll be quite honest, you could make some pretty simple incitement to riot or sedition cases against both of them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The other thing that I've noticed too, Joe, is that there are a lot of kind of ankle biters that are also kind of popping up in this. That the main thing is, of course, the ICE. They grab immigrants, they put them into an ICE facility, and they start to process them to push them out of the country. But everybody else has got their own kind of adjacent issues, and specifically, I think California is the hotbed for this, with the, sanctuary state kind of thing going on. And there's clearly an organization behind this. This is very AstroTurf to me, if just from my feeling. So we're going to dive into that and a lot more related to that. Pretty much our entire second half of the show we'll be looking at clips, and we'll be talking about kind of an AR on what happened, who was involved, and where we think this is going to go next. Because I'll be honest with you, Joe, this is not the last time we're going to see something like this. If anything, it's a proof of concept for the organizers to make it happen other places.
Well, and we know that they already had nationwide protests planned for this weekend. So it's going to make for an interesting weekend.
Yeah. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2 over in Rumble says, at what point do you think the militant left realizes that the property of terrorist Democrats is just as if not more flammable than a Tesla or a city? Yeah, they put a lot of stock in their armed guards and walled gated communities and walled compounds.
Yeah. But hey, it doesn't protect them all.
Well, it's the best money can buy, right? And that's just it. Security that money can buy is only security that is bought by money, not through more valuable forms of currency. All right. Let us. Watcher, how you doing today? You had a big weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, just watch the same thing. Appreciate all you guys that showed up. It was a good time. Like I said, if they do it again, we'll do it again. So,
I think it was this morning. You guys were doing, what was it, Sunday night?
We did both nights.
Yeah. Well, I just it seems like I remember, like, maybe when I came into work, you guys were still live, and you guys had a pretty good little
I did an
crowd
11-hour one yesterday.
Yeah, Watcher was a machine yesterday.
What hours did you go?
So they started their little action at 1 p.m. Pacific. So I started then, and then I went until they stopped, which was around midnight.
Well, yeah, I saw that you had a pretty sizable number on the X video. That's where I caught a little bit of it.
Yeah. I appreciate all the support. Got a lot just about everywhere, honestly. So we were averaging like 100 live viewers over on YouTube, and yeah, it was a good time.
Jim Satala says the Mexican president has declared that she is behind this attack. I don't know. She says that she's behind the whole thing.
She said that they may need to mobilize. I don't know that she said they were behind it.
Yeah, here's the thing. I don't think for a second that she would love to get involved in this somehow, but ultimately, I think, Joe, that she would find that to be a poor decision. You chose poorly.
Yeah, I mean, if they mobilized everything they had, we would be done fighting them in about 4 hours, and we would go back to whatever it was we were doing beforehand. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's just it. They may just ask the Marines at Pendleton to be the ones who just, hey, can you guys handle this Mexican military incursion? Yeah, thanks. We'll maybe a little North Island naval aviation support there. I think.
Let the North Dakota National Guard could kick the tar out of Mexico. So,
well, I don't know that I would trust the California National Guard. You never know. There may be too many infiltrators in that one, but hey. Yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran, wait a second. I think I saw your... Yeah, I see it. Hold on a second. Lance Corporal Veteran, if you could send that to Watcher, that would be the easiest way for him to be able to show that. Though it doesn't seem too bad. All right.
I must be missing something.
Yeah, Lance Corporal Veteran in the chat says, for $1, he says, since you guys pictured on what happened in San Francisco on X, I just told him to send you that as a DM so you could share it. Anything else going on with you guys this weekend? Anything worth talking about? How's the chickens treating you?
Doing great. No eggs yet.
No more updates.
Yeah, I mean we're just waiting on eggs now.
Joe, any Ursus retardicus updates? Did he basically?
No, I haven't seen him. He's pretty much moved on. But we're not putting anything in the trash cans either. So he's gone. But the deer family is all back. So that tells me the bear's probably not in the area as much.
Yeah, they don't like hanging around as much when the bear is just kind of idly kind of going through things.
Yeah, but I have started encountering a little bit of wolf signs, so we will see if we can get some video of a wolf.
Yeah, the wolves are pretty cool. I mean, I know they're fairly aggressive, but at the same time, I know they tend to stay away from humans. Is what is my understanding. All right. Let's get in to the first odds and end here. Russia expands ground war into Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk region for the first time as Russia and Ukraine continue sending record amounts of drones across the border in what are now nightly aerial raids. Moscow significantly stepped up its ground defensive over the weekend, announcing that it began advancing on Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk region for the first time in the 3-year war. Now, I looked at the map, guys, and this is more of a kind of like that corner of Dnipropetrovsk. Basically, just the line just kind of hit that corner. You know, it's not like they like dove like all the way through.
Was the best map segment we have done in a long time.
I know. I think there is a map. Yes, there is a map. If you just go down, you can see. And you'll see that the actual, it is a kind of like a triangular section here. But down here at the southern tip of Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, and then we've got over in Donetsk area, it kind of touches. So we got basically two areas where it's touching. They still got a lot of Zaporizhia to take, a lot of Donetsk to take. But this is where all the movement's happening in the northern part of Donetsk. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see them fully establish themselves in both of those. And the Kherson is really, if what you can't see on this map is the river basically goes right along that line going up to where Dnipropetrovsk is. So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't push north into there as well. Let me go back to the top here. All right. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said the advance serves as a warning to Zelensky government to accept the realities on the ground. The full social media statement said that those who do not want to recognize the reality of war and negotiations will receive new realities on the ground. At the same time, Russia's army publicized photos showing troops raising the Russian flag over the village of Zoria in the Donetsk region and in an area close to the internal border with Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Amid westward push, Russian Ministry on Sunday further announced the forces from a tank unit had reached the western border of the Donetsk People's Republic and are continuing to develop an offensive in the Dnipropetrovsk region. And here's a video of the Russians raising a Russian flag over a blown-up building. They're very proud of their trophy. I probably bled quite a bit to take that. So, Ukrainian government has yet to issue a public response to the new advance, but the military officer told AFP that there has been indeed slow Russian progress throughout the regional border. According to the same report, there are reasons to believe that Russia could soon take a key city there. Ukrainian military personnel previously told AFP that Russia could advance relatively quickly into the largely flat region, given the fewer natural obstacles or villages, and it could be used as a defensive position by Kiev's forces. The region, in particular, the city of Dnipro, had been under persistent Russian strikes since Moscow invaded in February 2022. Joe, Dnipro was one of the few cities in that kind of region that the Russians never got to. You remember that?
Yeah, they got bogged down trying to take McCullough and Kherson, and it never made it any further north. So.
Right, and they never kind of came fully across the. They kind of, if you remember, the line of control along the Donetsk and Luhansk area pretty much stayed pretty static until kind of the beginning of last year, if I remember correctly.
They held all of Kherson City for a while, which included both sides of the river.
Yeah,
And
that
they
was
threw
in that
back
first.
home.
Yeah, that was that first 6 months. Remember they had all of like Sumi and a bunch of area in the north as well, and they had. I think essentially what happened is they overextended their lines. They had to pull back, consolidate their gains, and then they started pushing forward again. So what
Well,
we're seeing is new ground taken that they never took before.
it's also proof of concept that stay behind partisan actions like those conducted by the Ukrainian Marines outside of Zaporizhia Airport
Yeah,
can work, right? The steady, loss of 3 or 4 helicopters a day sitting on the ground was enough to make them pull back out of that area.
yeah.
And it took a while, but it does work. There's a lesson
Let's
there for everyone paying attention. So,
installed peace negotiations. Moscow had demanded that Ukraine recognize that the territories of the Donbass had now been absorbed in the Russian Federation, something which Zelensky has refused to do. Dnipropetrovsk is among 4 territories formally claimed by Russia and based on the popular referendums in the east. However, if the Russian forces begin to occupy it, it certainly would be added by Moscow to keep the pressure on and leverage on Kiev. And this is one of the reasons why I think that these current round of peace negotiations are doomed to fail until Russia, decides to stop pushing forward. They're not going to go anywhere. And Ukraine's going to be even more reluctant to give in than anybody else. So.
yeah, but here's the thing, though, about them holding on to trying to hold on to Luhansk and Donetsk. Those were gone before Zelensky ever became president, right? They had already voted to leave. They had already been separatists before that. At some point, you got to say, okay, let him go. This is that ex-husband who just won't let go, right? Or the crazy girlfriend who won't let go.
Yeah, I mean the argument I guess could be made by the Ukrainians that no, the Russians didn't have the whole state, the oblasts controlled either one, but they had all the major cities. I mean, I don't know. I think it's probably already a done deal. It's all over but the crying at this point, as they say.
Yeah, there's no path to victory here. Hunch, we're glad to see you in the chat. We were worried about you last night because we were showing live video of big booty Latinas and you were nowhere to be found. We wanted to make sure you were okay. And just so you know, I have a white monster right here.
Vicky says, late to the show, but many thanks to Watcher Joe for commenting on the weekends. I didn't even get an invitation. Not that I would have been able to make it, but still.
You did, though.
There's
an open invitation to everyone, and it was in the council chat.
Wants to join us.
I know. I couldn't have come anyway, just from the timing. All right.
I was going to invite you specifically, but I didn't want to upset your marital bliss. So.
Well, there's that too. So this is some of the action that we've been seeing. This is one of those kind of video games point of view of the Russians on the ground versus the Ukrainians.
It would be way easier if both sides walked around with little flags over their head.
Yeah, to be able to watch the fight. It's hard to know the players if you don't have a program.
Yeah.
Just random kamikaze drones there. And then we've got those guys pulling out, moving back, and then we get Russian soldiers here. Yeah, and we see a push into this area by the Russians.
So geography is why everyone thinks drones are the way of the future, because they're seeing it in the Ukraine. But if you look at Ukraine, most of it is exactly like you just saw: massive open fields with incredibly small stands of woods, right?
Yeah.
If you came to, say, Appalachian or the Pacific Northwest, that's not going to happen, right?
we've got what's essentially rainforest here with pine rainforests,
Yeah.
and you got rugged mountain forests in the east.
Well, you know, Joe, I think it's one of those kind of things. The TTPs that work for drones in Ukraine wouldn't necessarily work in a lot of the more densely wooded areas in America. But that being said, maybe different types of drones with different capabilities and different TTPs might be effective. So
I refused to comment on it because a bunch of the drone bros tried to goad me this weekend with their video of FPV drones moving through the forest. Well, if you watch, those FPV drones were flying up trails and roads in the forest, not between the trees. You can't drive a fiber optic drone between the trees and expect the cable not to be cut. We learned that with tow missiles, right? It does not work in a wooded environment.
yeah. Well, I mean, maybe the answer then, like I said, I guess maybe you would need different drones. Like what works in Ukraine wouldn't work there, so you'd need to be more, picky. Maybe you need higher end drones to deal with the dense foliage. Watcher. I don't know. I mean, do you think that might be the need for some sort of AI kind of like onboard,
Yes. Like as soon
driving?
as you, if you're talking about trying to get in between trees, yeah. That's and then they can do it. Don't get me wrong; they've been able to do that since 2014. China,
but they're not those aren't the cheap drones that we're seeing in Ukraine. They are.
No. The ones that are in this Chinese experiment you're talking about are way cheaper than the ones you see in Ukraine. They're like $30, like a battery and 4 fans and a camera.
Well, here's the swarming ones. You can either have collision avoidance or you can have kamikaze drones. You can't have both. Because in order for them to actually be a kamikaze drone, it has to be able to collide with things.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think you just have to develop new TTPs and whatnot. But that being said, Joe, I mean, you know how it is. These drone techniques that are working for both sides in Ukraine right now did not pop up overnight. I mean, it took a long time for them to develop these, and a lot of people died in order to do it. So it's like any weapon system, right? It's only as good as the operators. And if you've got the right counter for it, then ultimately you could render something.
You know what's funny is that every time warfare has advanced into some new realm, they've all said infantry and infantry skills are going to go by the wayside. Nobody ever needs to do this again. And then nothing happens. Like the advent of aerial support was the first one. And then tanks. And then things like tow missiles and all these different things. Oh, they're changing combat. But at the end, it's the same. You're still going to always have infantrymen. You're always still going to need those skills. That's a great tool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-drone. Drones are a great tool. I am anti-over-reliance upon drones, right?
Yeah, exactly right. It's just another tool in the toolkit, right? If you get over-reliant on one thing, then you're basically opening up your vulnerability, right?
In fact, I'm going to be toying around with my new DJI drone this week, so we shall see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Thomas Mess says it right. Always need feet on the ground. Yeah, just like tanks, you cannot hold ground with tanks, right? You have to have infantry.
All right. Anything else on the Russian advance, gentlemen? Anything you want to mention there? Joe, I guess the last thing I'll say is, as we see continued divided attention by the international community on the fascist techniques of the Trump administration, I wouldn't be surprised if Putin doesn't try to sneak in a little more offensive, Ukrainian offensive into the mix. We expect that to happen this summer by the Russians. They've massed numbers in various areas, so we'll see. I guess my prediction for Ukraine is continued advances along the current lines, but I wouldn't be surprised, Joe, if we didn't see a incursion north near Sumy, to come in behind Kharkiv, to kind of, cut that entire wing of the defense off. That is my summer Russian offensive prediction. All right. Yeah, Cyrus the Elder, Joe, it would be fairly safe to say that you're anti-overall reliance on anything, except for Jesus Christ. I think you're probably right.
No, but here's the thing. I was just typing a reply when you started saying that. Is that, listen, infantry skill and your own individual skill does not emit, right? And drones, you have to in some way emit, and therefore you can be tracked and found. So rather than everyone hoping for some high-tech solution to all of their problems, learn no-tech solutions to all of your problems.
Hey, Joe, if you got a comment you want to highlight, just call it out and we can discuss it. That way you don't get bogged down in the because I think it's so funny. Like, I'm sorry, I was typing in the chat. I'm like, damn, buddy, you're here on the show. All right, cool, yeah. And one of the things I've noticed, Joe, is I need to be more interactive with the chat. Like, so. If you see anything in the chat worth talking about, call it out. All right, let's move on to our next odds and ends, shall we? This old Saul's popped up again, Joe. We need a kill switch on foreign powers tampering with our electric grid because they may have a kill switch in our electric grid. It's long been acknowledged that the United States energy infrastructure isn't particularly secure, a concern exacerbated by the lack of central planning process for our nation's piecemeal electric grid. Presidential administrations and Congress have been slow to address the problem, apparently daunted by the mere size and scope of the challenges the needed upgrades would present. Yeah, I mean, the money alone has got to be fucking huge. This is that whole idea of deferred maintenance,
Well, up until about the mid 80s, we weren't as reliant on technology as we are now, and it just skyrocketed from there.
The
by
use,
the
yeah.
90s, it was too late. We're so reliant upon the free flow of electrons that it's that simple for someone to do a kill switch. And our reliance on cheap electronic and electrical, because those are two different things, components from Asia has really allowed China to put us in this position. And I'm sorry, but there is no putting that horse back in the barn without like completely taking down our own grid and completely rebuilding it from the ground up. Because there's tiny switches in every single capacitor and every single transformer that would need to be removed and replaced. And we can't do that. We don't have the manpower or the money.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's almost like one of those kind of too big to fail type of situations.
And at this point, we're stuck there, and like I said before, literally our entire system in the West, the Greater West, right, all of Europe and us relies entirely upon electricity. Without electricity, we can't function.
Yeah, this is the Mark Sibley contribution to the today's show, worrying about turning off our electrical grid. Now, so back to the article. Now that needs to change. Now, the recent news: China apparently installed hidden kill switches in solar equipment sold to the U.S. was the latest in a long list of reasons to be concerned about our electrical infrastructure and the foolhardy rush to replace traditional energy sources with so-called renewables using technology that's often sourced from China. Reuters reported rogue communications devices not listed in product documents have been found in some Chinese solar power inverters by U.S. experts who stripped down the equipment, hooked up to grids to check security systems, using the rogue communication devices to skirt firewalls and switch off inverters remotely or change their settings could destabilize power grids, damage energy infrastructure, and trigger widespread blackouts. I mean, so this is, We speculated on this, but I think the Department of Energy did kind of come out and say that these were essentially devices that could grant access to some of the functionality of these inverters that that were installed on these systems. I mean, this kind of goes back to the Huawei issue when during Trump's first, he made a huge deal about banning Huawei from any 5G technology, and and even went so far as to demand that our European and NATO allies follow suit. What's your take on this idea of a Chinese kill switch, and what do you think the ultimate threat that China poses on our grid? Like, how do you rate that?
Well, again, if you have never read Unrestricted Warfare, highly recommend that you do so, because it goes to a lot of things that China has played the long game on, and this is one of them. The first thing is agricultural terror. If you look at the people just recently arrested for bringing in an agricultural disease that can harm food and kill people, you did that on our orange crops in Texas. The reason why I bring those up is it's the same thing here. China has spent decades putting themselves in this position where they've got a magical kill switch inside the US and European electrical grids.
Yeah.
As we start noticing, like we're doing now, it becomes the same thing that we're worried about in the control of nuclear weapons. If someone was to threaten China's ability to use their nuclear weapons, they have a use it or lose it philosophy, as does every nation, right? We've always told everyone, if you conduct a strike on our nuclear assets, we will then use the remaining nuclear assets to deal with you. As we reveal that we know China has these kill switches and we're going to start addressing them, China has an option here. Either use them or lose them. And I think that us knowing about them and it being so publicly well known right now actually puts us at higher risk of China actually pushing the button. And like I said before, China doesn't necessarily want to invade the U.S. They want to cause chaos in the U.S. to enable them to take control of their own areas, right? And the best way for them to do that is shutting down our electricity. So there is a really big risk here. And I see there's some commentary there, like Matt L said, Metcalf had kill switches enacted by 30-6. It was actually 762 by 39. And it actually caused it to overheat and that tripped things. Every time we've seen an attack on the substations, it's been with 762 by 39, which I think is significant, given who supplies that ammo from the rest of the world. So,
well, I think you've come on to a point there. It's either somebody who's in the community that's generally a little more budget conscious, but nowadays, like Russian ammo and Russian guns are not as cheap as they used to be. It's not like the old days, Joe, where any moron could afford like an SKS or something like that. It's definitely more, more of a operator niche than the poor's type of situation you used to have. All right. Give me just a second here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did you see my
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Let me get back on focus here. So let me even more concerning is the problem is not relegated to the US. Britain's GB News reported Chinese companies dominate the market for power inverters, with firms like Huawei and Sungrow controlling more than half the market in 2023. According to Wood Mackenzie Research, the European Solar Manufacturing Council estimates that more than 200 gigawatts of European solar power capacity relies on Chinese-made inverters. Joe, I mean, that's fucking nuts. I mean, and the things that they found on the ones in those were like kind of pretty crude communication devices. Whereas if they got, I mean, they have way more sophisticated ways to get into these, back doors and things like that in the firmware of these things. I mean, Watcher, you know about this stuff too. I mean, what's your guys' take on this kind of, especially with the Europeans who rely so much on renewable energy?
Well, with us putting up 5G, and there was a discussion about it in the chat, putting up 5G towers, we've actually made it pretty easy because all you have to do is these rudimentary communication devices just have to receive a signal one time. That's all they need, right? The off switch, right? And they can use our own cell system against us. So it doesn't have to have a very robust communication system. They're not sending data over it other than a single message.
Yeah.
Well, and pretend that like we somehow turn off our entire 5G network and prevent that message from going out. Cool. They send word drivers by with simple radios broadcasting a signal.
And it doesn't have to be a sophisticated radio. I mean, it could literally be a digital file over, something. Yeah, I guess like what is it, the DMR 32 or whatever.
Yeah. I'll tell you, this
from a simple
difference in range between digital and analog. With an analog radio, you might get 8 or 9 miles, right? In good territory. That digital radio, we were getting 21 crystal clear. So it's a much smaller signal, goes much further.
Yeah, this is dangerous shit. I can't legitimately, I cannot believe we've allowed our power infrastructure to go to China. I imagine for just a moment, America spent millions of dollars in World War II. And again, World War II, we were so much less reliant on power back then. But even then, we spent millions of dollars on these rockets that were trailing little copper wires just to try and knock out German power in the homeland. And now we've literally just installed their own kill switches. Yeah. We're the most retarded nation that has ever existed on the face of the planet. I'm sorry. It's God.
But just not serious, I mean, it for as bad as the U.S. grid is, the European grid is way worse.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, I agree with you, but look, Europe is not in danger of going at loggerheads with China, and probably because they understand how fucked they are, right?
Well, the other thing too, Joe, is that for as janky as the American grid is, its regional kind of nature actually gives it some amount of resilience. Like you don't lose the whole country all at once. Like you might lose Texas, or you might lose the West Coast, or you might lose Montana, Wyoming, Colorado,
Alberta, Saskatchewan.
Yeah. And then you've got New York and southern Canada on that side. I mean, you got these kind of regional grids to kind of.
The closest we came was in 2002, when we lost 2 of the 5 grids at one time, right? And most of the eastern U.S. and parts of Canada were without power for several days because of a cascade failure, where some of the safety features activated and accidentally overloaded the entire system, and it was that quick, and it took them about 5 minutes to figure out what the problem was, and that stopped it from cascading further west. But now we're far more reliant on electricity than we were even in 2002. So I don't know that we would catch it that fast like we did then. The whole thing that caused the entire problem took about 30 minutes to start, but it only took 5 minutes for the grid to go down across probably fully a third of the U.S. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely. I think this is just one of those structural defects that we built into our system that, we just didn't even we didn't even consider as something that would be a real problem.
Hey, WTF 5000 actually have a thread on Twitter documenting that kind of stuff. If you could drop that there, that'd be very appreciated.
This one right here.
You're
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to this next one. I want to play a video by Mr. St. Ange. This is about basically how they're trying to fuck Trump on the interest rates, and I absolutely agree with this. The way the numbers in the economy have been really good. So we should see the interest rates go down, and yet somehow it magically stays at a artificially high 4.5%. They are literally trying to fuck Donald Trump live in front of everybody.
Europe just cut interest rates for the 8th time in a row to just 2%, while the Federal Reserve keeps rates more than twice as high, 4.3, which is higher than all but 8 months out of the past 25 years. This all despite inflation running below the Fed's target and a slowing job market, which all prompted Donald Trump to go after, quote, too late Powell, demanding an immediate full-point cut. So why are rates so high? Central banks normally try to lower rates as much as possible. In fact, this is why bankers bribe central banks into existence. The central bank is intended to be an inflation machine. And they do this mainly by artificially lowering interest rates. Low rates mean it is cheap to borrow. In fact, sometimes they make it free to borrow, as in rates are lower than inflation. This happened during COVID all the way until 2023, leaving 9% inflation in its wake. Now, bankers and politicians like cheap money because it makes the economy grow. Basically, a tissue fire burning bright but burning out fast, since the cheap money causes inflation, which makes the central bank yank up rates, which strangles the economy into recession. Presto, the boom-bust cycle, cheap money, and then they strangle it. So we're currently at the strangle stage ever since Bidenflation, but since Trump took office, inflation has collapsed to just 1.5%, which is actually below the Fed's 2% target. That means normally the Fed would be nervous about deflation right about now. Throw in a slowing job market and tariff uncertainty, and a normal Fed would be feverishly slashing rates to goose the economy. Instead, the Fed sits on its hands. That was particularly odd considering that the Fed has a 112-year track record of bailing out every policy shock from D.C. So they slashed when Hoover caused the recession and FDR kept it going. They slashed in the oil embargo, the 1980 recessions, the Gulf War, the dot-com bust, the 2008 crisis, and of course the COVID lockdowns. But somehow Trump's tariffs are the exception, nary a whisper of support from the Fed. So what can Trump do about it? He's mused about replacing Jerome Powell, which it's not clear he can do. But Powell's term ends anyway next May. Trump's likely replacement, Kevin Warsh, is actually a hard money guy, meaning higher rates. But Warsh is also a team player, so he'll probably cut, especially if the tariff war is still going on. Still, that leaves a year of strangling the economy and the consumer with high rates. A year takes us to midterms, so Jerome Powell could effectively deliver a Democrat Congress. So what's next? Buy on chain.com.
Yeah, I'm no financial wizard, but it makes sense to me that if you keep the rates high, you're basically making everybody's, all the money they need to start businesses and to buy houses and all the things they need to take advantage of this nice economy. It makes it harder to get. So it's just, I think this is clearly a political move on Powell's part, in his loyalty to whatever democratic policies that he's trying to push. Now, that being said, on the Treasury side, you've got Bessent, and he is he's essentially cut his teeth in the George Soros money shop where he helped crash the British pound. Now, that's not to say that his heart is still in that kind of world, but that's definitely, you got to know where your people come from. So it's kind of like between a rock and a hard place with these two guys. I think ultimately, if Bessent gives us what Trump wants, then ultimately we got a better chance for a better recovery. But guys, once again, I'm no financial wizard, so I don't know. This is when I'd turn it over to a guy like Jim or somebody like that to You know, Jim, you need to explain this to me, boy. Because I sure as hell can't understand it.
Yeah, and by the way, where is Jim this morning?
I know. He was on with you guys all weekend. You know, I'm just saying.
Oh, that's he didn't like you.
All right. That's fine. That's fine. Fine. All right. Gentlemen, shall we move into the endless profit seeking portion?
Yeah.
Well, the meat and potatoes being the tactical-wizard.com portion.
Right.
Joe?
Right. Hey man, it would really help me out if y'all would buy some books. And you can find those books on my website. Crazy enough, right? There's some signed books there. There's some t-shirts there. There's some good stuff. I need everyone to read that article about this moment in history that we are in. That tells you it's time to act and it's time to do something. Get active and be aware. And that doesn't necessarily mean getting out and going crazy and doing stuff, but it does mean paying attention to the bad elements that are out there and maybe gathering information on who your opposition is locally. So what I recommend is this week and maybe this weekend, as things happen, go to the local protests, gather information on who is there, see who the leaders appear to be, see what vehicles are involved, so you know who to watch for when things go bad, right? Now is the time for you to gather your information and get out there and do it. It's not time to be passive and continue to complain online about the direction our country is headed while continuing to do nothing, right? We need to actually get out there and do stuff, right? Make stuff happen. So great way to do that. Start out by reading my books and then come to a class.
Yeah, I mean, Montana is where it's at with your classes. You'll also be doing classes in North Carolina later in the year. You guys got a pretty good lineup coming up, so definitely check out. Are all your classes listed, I assume, on Tactical Dash Wisdom?
They all are, except for things like private courses, like I'm headed to do this week. But those are pretty few and far between anyway. But yes.
Well, they pay good though, so
they do pay good. They do pay good.
All right. Speaking of paying well, I'm gonna do our next brushbeater.store ad. Today we're diving into the chaos gripping Los Angeles, and we're proud to bring you another ad for the trusted sponsor, Brushbeater Store, arming you for turbulent times ahead. This weekend, LA erupted. Riots sparked by ICE raids saw over 1,000 protesters clashing with police, hurling Molotov cocktails, setting cars ablaze, and looting stores like Adidas from downtown to Paramount. The tear gas flashbangs filled the air as National Guard rolled in. The unrest fueled by open border radicals shows our cities aren't safe. At brushbeater.store, you can prep to protect yourself with the Tiny SA Ultra Spectrum Analyzer. Scans RF signals to detect surveillance or enemy comms, keeping you ahead of coordinated threats. And this was definitely a coordinated threat. The Level 3A ballistic helmet tested by NC Scout, shields you in a chaotic streets and pairs with night vision for 24/7 readiness to fight back. The 2025 Small Unit Tactics course trains you to move and defend as a team with classes in North Carolina, Missouri, Montana, and beyond. Check out brushbeater.store dash collection or dash courses. CFC10 at checkout for 5% off the Tiny SA helmets, training, or any other gear like optics or radios. Orders over $100 ship free. Visit brushbeater.store and stand ready. Huge thanks to Matt, our friend Matt, the owner, who has given us his relentless support. Matt, your dedication to the Council of Future Conflict and community strength is unmatched. Thank you. Head to brushbeater.store, use code CFC10, and prep for the next riot. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Gentlemen, a lot going on this weekend. Watcher, you kind of like did a pretty long riot watch. why don't you kind of
Yeah,
like introduce what you did, and then we'll kind of get into this. We're looking at this more in retrospect now. So I'll
Well-
let your kind of live experience kind of lead us into that.
Funnily enough, I'm looking at something that says we might have to be looking at this as more of a continuous event, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm getting indications that they may be ramping up in more places than just Los Angeles even today. But yeah, so if you guys follow me over on the Watcher on the Web channel, you'll know that I or my X feed or over on Rumble. We used to do riot watches all the time. That's actually like why I started this whole Twitter thing. That's why I'm the Watcher on the Web, is that we used to do riot watches for Antifa. And my previous account that got banned before this used to do riot watches for Antifa. That's why it got banned, is that they would target us for exposing them. So yeah, basically we booted up a return to form and pulled an old night watch and a riot watch, and had a very interesting time. Night one, you had Joe, remind me, it was Federal Protective Services and the Sheriff's Department
That did most of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, because the mayor had forbidden anyone else from showing up, and so that's when Trump activated the National Guard. But the National Guard did not show up that first night. The crowd sort of disappeared once the National Guard was activated. But they showed back up the next day at noon local time. Let's see. I wish I had some of the stuff that I had on my stream. Actually, I should have kept some of that up. So there's a Google Maps view that I referenced on the stream that I wish I could pull up again. But it's a very interesting building block where they're doing this protest. So it's right next to it is 1 block away from City Hall. It's this little the block has got a couple of government buildings on it. It's got 2 federal buildings, a federal detention center, and for some reason, the downtown LA VA, which added a very interesting dynamic to the second day, because you had a lot of guys that were obviously just veterans trying to come into the VA to get medical care, or veterans trying to keep people away from the entrance of the VA center so that veterans could come get medical care. Just an absolutely crazy dynamic there. But day 2, you had, as soon as people had arrived, National Guard was deployed. And National Guard was deployed with the sheriffs, I think. No, not the sheriffs, with probably Federal Protective Services there on the actual site. Now, from what I'd understood later on the second day, the reason they were protesting this particular place is that A, the detention center itself, and B, one of the federal buildings has been turned into a temporary lockup for ICE during their big removal drive in Los Angeles. So I would expect that building to be those buildings to be a continuous target. But anyways, they started a march from Mariachi Plaza, which is 1.5 miles away. But they had agitators there early, like 11 o'clock in the morning, their time. They just kind of hung out there all day. The march arrived, got very, very violent. It basically, as soon as the march arrived, it got violent. And that's the one moment in which the National Guard and the Federal Protective Services had the ability to act. They gassed them really heavily and pushed them back really hard. And then for some reason at that point, Los Angeles mayor decided that it was acceptable, maybe that they wouldn't aid in any enforcement activity, but whatever threatening President Trump was doing in the background made her decide that they would, however, allow the sheriff's department and LAPD and highway patrol to respond to law enforcement agencies requesting aid.
If you go to the S2 Underground link at the first video, it's actually not a video, it's an image.
Underground. Oh, wow, that's a ways down. Okay.
Yeah. If you go to that one, so this what he has added
yeah,
in
that'll
here is a good map
That'll work.
that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
gives the overview of the area, and then there's a map on the post of just above it that has a little more expanded. If yeah.
What he
So-
needs to do is support Blaine by labeling the green areas FedGov and naming
Yeah,
red
that's right.
Numerica forces.
We've got the social enforcement that we're shutting down the 101.
yeah, and then once they pushed him back from here and LAPD showed up, in pushing them back off of this street, which is basically, this is where that first confrontation took place. No, wait, no, we're on the wrong side. This is where that first confrontation took place. So this is where they were stacked, and they pushed him out to both sides of the street. And when they pushed him out to this side, the protest that was already gathering and happening here made the decision to move down onto the freeway.
I'm pretty sure that last night we watched live as Florida Man joined the California protests. If you were watching last night, there was a very crazy thing that unfolded in the middle. The protesters attacked a van, and the man in the van then went to attack them by driving in reverse, doing donuts.
Yeah, I saw. I've got that video
find the
actually in here, but
if you want to
pull up this Google Earth link, and I put in the private chat. This is Chester Bullock has been sharing it.
Oh yeah, so Chester is the one who was
Chat,
providing me my maps when I was there. Give me a second though, because it's not liking something about that link. I'm getting 404'd.
I don't know.
There we go. No, it's all right. It was the something in the formatting. Here we go. So yes, Chester, I hope this is the one we can dip and turn. But yes, so essentially here is your VA hospital. Here is one of the two federal buildings. Here's the second federal building, which happens to be the ICE headquarters in town. And then here is the federal lockup. And then I believe, oh no, it's up here. So up the street here is Big Gay Penis City Hall building somewhere. It looks like a penis, and they light it up in gay colors. It came up in stream so often. And like literally everybody walked by, it was like, why is the City Hall a penis? Anyhow,
yes. So let me get into some of the stories that will kind of cover the event retrospectively, and then we will look at some of the videos. And there are videos in this too. So I mean, if you want to play any of these while I'm reading through here, let's see.
Oh yeah,
actually,
I wasn't even quite done with the recount yet, but yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Waymos. Yeah. So once they pushed him down on the freeway, and then LAPD took the freeway. So LAPD decided to make the decision to come up the freeway this way while they were maintaining traffic going this way.
It was actually Highway Patrol.
Oh, was it Highway Patrol? Because I think it might have been both. But okay, so Highway Patrol then came down this way. And what do you notice about this? Is there a feature about this highway that might make that a risky decision?
I talked about this in class, right? This is a terrible overpass. Are a terrible idea. Going through underpasses.
Unless you control the top of the overpass,
you have to control the top of the overpass before you go under it. 100%.
But closest friendly forces were basically here. So enemy had free reign at the top of the overpass, but they had to unfortunately, they didn't have a choice. They had to get them off the freeway because they were about to shut off both lines of the freeway, and that's the main artery of the town. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of that action happening. And then when they came to shut that down, where was the street where the Waymos were set on fire? I think it was here. No, not here. It was probably over here then. So they summoned 5 or 6 Waymos and stacked them perfectly all in the center of the street that they wanted to do area denial in, and then smashed them up and set them on fire.
Yeah.
Which took forever to put out, obviously, because they were hybrids, so there were batteries on board. And then after an incredible
in, by the way,
and then after an incredibly long evening, the summation that we're going to see essentially is Donald Trump said, "Hey, I've got 500 Marines out in 29 Palms that are ready to rock, and we're done with this bullshit." And I think at that point, the governor and the mayor made the decision to have the local authorities make the final push and get everybody out of there. But the thing had been declared an illegal gathering, and they had been issued a dispersal order since like 1 p.m. local time.
Yeah. So I mean, Newsom and the local, they were literally complicit in this event. And we're gonna focus on that.
And up until late last night, while we were doing the stream, Karen Bass was being invited on national news and was making insightful statements in an attempt to drive up more protesting. She was urging Los Angelinos to resist, and that is not a positive thing. Watcher, can you pull that video back up, or that map back up real quick? I want to make a point here. The map that you just had up, the Google Earth thing. That's a Waymo.
This is up. No, this should be the map. I'm seeing the map.
No, the one you have Zero Hedge up with BG on the scene video.
Oh, okay. What?
I was just going to point out, when you see a road like that, still Zero Hedge. When you see a map like that with all those overpasses over the road, if you were to move
I'm seeing the map.
When he puts it up on the screen, it's BG on the scene doing that. There we go. So what you would do, this is for the State Department's protective services thing and the Secret Services, is you would have to have locals seal off all those bridges before you drove down that road. And that's where the failure was last night, right? If as much as we set up as a control force, if they set up roadblocks to try to keep the bad folks out, the bad folks set up their own roadblocks to try to keep additional control forces out. And that's what happened here. So before you tried to move a mass number of law enforcement resources up that road, you had to clear the bridges first, and they didn't do that. There's a lesson for all of you in making your disaster plans. Know where places like this are. If you live in Metro Detroit, 696 and 96 are like this, and you don't want to use them.
Yeah.
I have to say real quick before we move on. Somebody asked how long before Waymo shuts down Operation California. Personal theory crafting here. I'm not saying this is happening, lawyers out there. I'm saying this is a plausibility. Waymo's a failing company, and wouldn't it be awful convenient if you just allowed a whole bunch of your very expensive and liable fleet that you
Waymo is owned by Google. They don't have to make any money.
Is in trouble.
I don't think so. I don't think that's accurate information based on what I've seen recently. Anyway, that's not the point. Lance Corporal Veteran for $1 says Mike Benz claims Mayor Bass was the second board member for the NED, National Endowment for Democracy, aka CIA NGO Rent a Riot org. That's interesting. It wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, I'm going to go to the Fox News article. It's the third link. Newsom's office compares LA riots against the federal agents to a sports celebration. Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom's office downplayed the riots gripping Los Angeles, likening them to sports celebrations that notoriously break out in Philadelphia after the Eagles' victory. LA riots. Have these geniuses ever seen what happens when the Eagles win a playoff game? That's Izzy Gordon, Newsom's communications director, said that on Fox News on Sunday morning. Philadelphia notoriously sees sports revelers flood the city after they blood teams such as the Eagles or the Phillies win championships, sometimes setting cars ablaze and causing property damage. The city even greases the city light poles to dissuade partiers from scaling them, and deploys additional police to the streets while often wearing riot gear. Fox News Digital reached out to governor's office to ask about the claims by California Republicans and natives that Newsom and Mayor Bass bore some blame for the riots. They and other local Democrats issued messages defending illegal immigrants and condemning federal agents for carrying out deportation raids in the left-wing city. Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have a real habit of letting Los Angeles burn. Republican California Rep Daryl Issa posted on X, "If only Karen Bass fought against the Los Angeles fires like she fights for illegal aliens." Ooh, that's kind of a sick burn. Issa added in another post referring to the Palisades fires, Gavin Newsom is unqualified for a plethora of reasons, the least of which is the support for illegal alien insurrectionists. He is an all-purpose, all-around loser, Hollywood actor, and California resident, James Wood posted to X. Federal officials have also pinned blame for the violence on Democratic elected officials who have villainized and demonized ICE law enforcement. This is on you, Governor. It's a shame that California openly defies federal law and sides with the illegal aliens, including hardened criminals, against its own citizens. That's Harmony Dillon, former vice chair of California's Republican Party and current assistant attorney general for civil rights in the Department of Justice. The violent targeting of law enforcement in Los Angeles by lawless rioters is despicable, and Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom must call to an end. So one of the things that I want to bring up, there was one flag and one set of colors that I saw first and foremost throughout the entire thing. Now, I saw many flags, but ultimately this is the one I saw the most. And if you refer to our screenshot for today, you'll see it with I think this is probably the photo of the day, which is our motorbike guy with the Mexican flag with, the smoky.
Oh, this was a good one, but I don't know. The guy's in front of so this was the day before, actually.
Yeah. This was Saturday, right?
Yeah.
But the whole Mexican flag thing absolutely was a theme throughout the entire riot. And so what you see essentially are enemy agents of a foreign power operating within the U.S. that hold allegiance not to the United States, but to a foreign power. And you even had that foreign power's head of state commenting directly in a favorable manner, even potentially showing that she may provide some sort of material support to these activities.
That woman with the fine traditional Hispanic name of Shinebound.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're watching, Joe. You're going to get them Jew folks coming in here, jumping on the conspiracy theory with you. I mean,
my point is that she's obviously controlled by elsewhere, and it's not Israel. She's controlled by people who speak Chinese. And that's how she got where she is. That's how she's going to stay where she is. At the root of all of this, despite the Mexican flags to the contrary, is the Chinese Communist Party. And we keep saying Marxist, but the actual term you're looking for is Maoist, because Mao's the one who said the militant has to be able to swim like a fish among the citizens. And that's what these guys do.
Let's see. I'm just kind of going through the Zero Hedge.
Well, everyone, since it is Mossad Monday, we will cheer on the seizure of Greta Thunberg. How about
that?
That's
right. Yes. Evidently, evidently her party got interrupted on her booze cruise.
You've heard the new the new update about the Israel-Palestine situation, haven't you? Well, the Hamas has offered to surrender if they send Greta back to Europe.
If they just send Greta back to Europe. Over the weekend, that was the only use of an LRAD I saw in any civil disturbance over the weekend was the Israeli Navy using an LRAD on Greta. She's on the front of their boat holding on, and they're hitting her with a million candle power strobe while the LRAD is going off. I imagine that couldn't have been much fun. So.
Let's see. Hunch Dirty Roofer for $2 says comments like that show just how far our society has dematured. It's childish wrongdoing. It's wrongdoing. Perpetrators must be punished and victims must be made whole. I don't know what comment are we referring to there?
No idea. But
I don't know, Hunch. You got to tell me what you're talking about so I can comment on it. I am very immature though. So it's probably something I said. All right. This is just kind of going through the zero hedge, and the thing I like about these zero hedge stories is they're not a story per se. It's just kind of like an accumulation of the iconic images and clips. So I thought we could kind of go through these, and the Dale's Donut one with the Mexican on the motorbike. I thought that was pretty good. The iconic LA backdrop. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at. Yeah. Watcher, what was your kind of your vote for the most iconic image from this?
Oh, I think Hassan nearly taking a flashbang to the head and flinching like a little bitch. That was my favorite. But no, yeah, I don't know. This one was the day before. So if we're talking about like the actual day of, probably the guys tossing the Lime scooter off the bridge onto the burning CHP cruiser, or maybe the oh no step cruiser. Don't bump me like that.
Yeah. The one thing that Trump was pretty,
I guess, from that day would have been
the dirt burning Wayos. Yeah, for me, I thought it was interesting that Donald Trump did say insurrectionists. He said now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop deportation operations, but these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I'm directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to those migrant rights. Joe, this constitutes basically a direct order from the President of the United States. He just happened to put it in a Truth Social post. And using the term insurrectionist, I think is actually pretty powerful. And speaking of powerful, Mr. Blaine Pardoe.
Blaine, I represented you earlier today. I just want you to know that. I said that on the maps, they need to start listing FedGov controlled areas and Numerica controlled areas.
That's right. Well, we also were looking at video of social enforcement trying to impose their will. So, Blaine, it's almost as if you wrote this. Tell me what your kind of general take for the weekend was.
Well, it is the season for rioting. Nothing. Yeah, it's hard to riot in the winter. Everybody likes doing it in the summer, and why not burn down LA a little bit? This will spread. I've seen places in North Carolina who have granted permits for protests today. So this is going to spread. They're trying, to push the limit of federal authority as much as possible. I love Gavin Newsom's response to all this is all Donald Trump's fault. And my response to demonstrate my sterling leadership is I'm going to sue the federal government.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that always plays out so freaking well.
Yeah, the feds.
Last time we had governors saying they were going to openly defy the federal government. Oh,
yeah.
18 what? So it's been pretty interesting on that. What we really need to end all this is we need Captain Dolio and the Purebloods. Where is that guy?
They are going to California in the next book. So,
Oh, it sounds like a threat. Yeah, can I just say, Blaine, I was doing a little kind of touch up on some of my Blue Dawn over the weekend. I just wanted to bravo on the what was it the industrial, what was it, the polymer where you basically had bodies like locked inside the
oh yeah,
resin or whatever it
waste
was.
plastic.
Oh, I mean, what an image, man.
Well, that's just a modern take on Han Solo being put in a carbonite. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like, this has been a great weekend between Greta, trying to sail through a blockade to deliver 100 kilograms of flour to the refugees, to, what we expected. We knew this was going to happen. This
Yeah.
is so predictable. It was destined to happen. It's just not going to work. And Trump is demonstrating that this is his second term. He doesn't have to worry about re-elections. He's not going to fall into the trap that he did in 2020, where he didn't give a federal response. He's going to go in with overwhelming force. As I put it, I'm working on next week's update already. I said it's going to get ugly when they call out, the RTK, the rooftop Koreans. When that unit gets deployed, then the shit's going to hit the fan.
Well,
So real quick update. And this is what I was talking about earlier. It could be going on today.
Stop ice raids, Tampa City Hall. Yeah. So you got spreading to Florida. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see Texas get in on it. San Francisco will probably attempt to do, but I don't, it's the one thing I will say, Blaine, I mean, this is way more AstroTurf than the Summer of Love. The Summer of Love was AstroTurf too. I'm just saying a lot of organic people just kind of got involved and decided to steal some shit. If you compare this to the Rodney King riots, the scale has still been pretty small. I mean, it's a really, really localized area where all this activity was over Saturday and Sunday. So it's almost like it seems like it's bigger than it is, but ultimately this will be the kind of spark that gets it, I think, to kind of grow a little more.
Well, my son is in LA. He lives in the Beverly Hills area, and I talked to his partner yesterday about this, and they said the problem is it's attracting, or people are being brought in.
Right.
It's bringing in a lot of people who don't even live in LA are showing up for this because they think this is going to somehow make a thing. I will say, I really do appreciate them waving the flags of their home countries to make it easier so we know where to send them back to. I mean, that I think is really courteous on their part. But if they think this is going to stop because they're throwing a tissy fit, it's not going to stop. As a matter of fact, if I was Tom Holman, I would be calling Gavin Newsom's bluff of, hey, I'm right here. If you want to arrest me, come get me. I would take him up on that.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is that it's nice of these people to declare their allegiance. That because if I've seen that they've got a digital camera system that basically is taking pictures and facial recognition and things like this of everybody involved. Now the Antifa Black Bloc guys are they kind of screw that up with their black face masks. But didn't I also see something like either Saturday or Sunday, Trump saying nobody will be able to protest in America again with masks on? So he's I guess the Justice Department's trying to go after, protesters in masks.
Yeah, I don't know how enforceable that is, but you know what?
Yeah.
Make the call. What these people are doing is showing where their real loyalties are. And I think that's important. And I think the rest of the country sees it and goes, yeah, I don't see any American flags other than the ones you're burning. that isn't going to play well. It's like they haven't read the room outside, LA
Yeah.
and their little bubble there. And the rest of America, I think, looks at this and goes, this is out of control and it's got to be reined in. And unfortunately, I think they're hoping that Trump will overreact. I don't know if that's going to happen. They want a Kent State moment. They want a moment where, quote unquote, innocent people are shot and killed. And, but even the media has flipped on it in the last 12 hours and has started saying these are violent protests. These are riots. These are attacks on police. We're seeing that now in the legacy media.
Yeah.
So they've lost. When you lose the legacy media like that, it's over in many respects because it's not going to play well for you.
Well, I did think it was kind of interesting how, some of the things that they went after were, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, the targets that we saw in the Summer of Love were a lot more kind of random and local, but like with the Waymo, the way the cars were ordered up and stacked up in the middle of the street, Watcher, you mentioned that. There were a couple other things too. Joe, the other one that I didn't understand either was what was the point of what the highway patrol was even doing under that overpass? It's like
they were on their way into town to try to provide additional manpower. And somebody dropped one on the first vehicle, stopping the rest of them. Classic ambush, right? Stop the first and last vehicle, and then deal with everyone in the middle. I want to point something out here. The signs that we saw all weekend long that said La Raza that were being held up. Now, if you remember, La Raza changed their name recently to some sort of Hispanic Awareness Network or something. But La Raza, when literally translated, means the race. And I find it ironic that it's not called a Hispanic supremacist organization, even though it literally is, by calling themselves the race. It's just interesting to me.
So Kyle Bass, Heyman Capital Manager, co-founder, and CEO wrote on X, organizing to impede the lawful execution of warrants by federal officers sure sounds like a massive RICO case. Do you think Act Blue and other Democratic organizations have thought this through? If a group publicly announces it's going to commit murder, doesn't make that murder any more legal? What appears evident is the elements within the Democratic Party, from local LA leaders to DC elites, along with law firms behind their sprawling, dark-funded leftist NGO network, are orchestrating a coordinated cover revolution. The goal appears to be placing Trump in a politically difficult situation to shift public sentiment and against the administration. This mirrors the strategy deployed by Democrats in 2020 when Marxist nonprofits such as Black Lives Matter were activated and mobilized to generate widespread unrest. Now, Blaine, this kind of plays into some of the things that you touched upon, especially in the first Blue Dawn novel. Just talk to me a little bit about these kind of, and we've seen the kind of the what is it? The curtain pulled back from a lot of these organizations, and with all this NGO money.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen even the tip of the iceberg. These guys are experts at laundering cash, and they've laundered it pretty clean. But I'm sure that there will be some investigations. I think, one of the things that was telling for me was when we went through the riots in 2020, I executed a request of all of the senators in Senate to say, did you or any of your staff contribute money to Antifa? That's all I requested. I sent an email out to every one of them. Yeah. And I heard back from only 3. My 2 from the state of Virginia both tried to put me on fundraising things so they could send me emails, but no one actually answered those questions. I think you got to remember FOIAs are only executable against the executive branch.
Yeah.
We need that level of transparency, I think, in Congress at this point. to see how much money is going there. Because Tim Kaine, a man who ran for the vice presidency of the United States, his son is an Antifa member.
Yeah, that's right. I remember hearing about that during the election. I mean, Tim Kaine's a moron anyway, but
Well, Tim Kaine is a moron. But honestly, the competition for head moron in Congress is really going up.
It's pretty tight. Pretty tight.
It's pretty tight, but I got to tell you, Cory Booker really, because he's got a book coming out about his filibuster that he did. And, he came out yesterday and said these were peaceful protests.
Yeah, but I
none
think
of the violence happened.
Cory has a misunderstanding. He thinks it means Phil a Buster, and Buster is a guy he knows. So I think that book's going to be a little different than what you're all thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of funny to watch these guys do this, but you're going to find out that if not them, their staff has been funding a lot of these organizations. I am still surprised Donald Trump hasn't named Antifa as a terrorist organization.
or a criminal, I could see them not doing terror, but doing it as an illegal organization, with the idea of using RICO to go after it.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be something that happens. I'm hoping they're working on that. I'm going to assume that someone in the Department of Justice has been watching it,
especially after this weekend.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. We've got some more stuff here. Stephen Miller, who's been a fucking absolute beast in recent weeks and months. Look at all these foreign flags. Los Angeles is occupied territory. And then he's posting on a off the presses post where they're just showing the crowd. Natalie Winters, another person doing the Lord's work. Anti-ICE rioters in Los Angeles are being organized by the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. That is funded by Act Blue. Act Blue is one of the recipients of a lot of that kind of slush money, Democratic slush money. Well-funded. Let's see. Jennifer Van Laar says, read this entire post. Okay, we might not. The kicker is CHIRLA, the group behind the current rioting in LA, received nearly $34 million in revenue from government contracts during the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2023, with 96% of that funding from the state of California. Wow. I mean, it's not just the federal government that's laundering money through these.
Because Trilla is making money off of the refugee business. The refugee business is huge. Trilla then says, "Hey, we're going to house some of these people," and they get them in a $35 a night hotel room, but they bill the government $500 a night. And the grift is too good for these people. They don't want to give it up. I want to raise a point. There's a chat going on a discussion going on in the chat about the statements made by Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. They charged Donald Trump with incitement to riot over far less, right? Gavin and Karen both called for people to actively resist the federal government, which is sedition. But that makes incitement to riot much easier to prove. So it'll be interesting to see if any of them are charged in that. They probably won't be, but at the very least, Gavin Newsom should be, as should Karen Bass.
Marlene says, wasn't it Schumer who said there's no such thing as Antifa? I think that was Jerry Nadler who said that. He said that it's just an idea.
Almost all of them. It's almost
and then Elizabeth Warren does not exist either. She is a fiction of our imagination.
Chief, tell him big lie.
Yeah. That's right. Let's see. Andy No says Antifa International has announced on June 8th direct action to the attack the ICE Gov facility in San Francisco. The planned riot is organized in support of the insurrection in Los Angeles.
You have to know this, though. Antifa posts a lot of stuff like this, and nothing ever happens. They're very good at, misleading the public as to what they're doing and misleading the authorities.
Let's see. Cam Higbee. By the way, Cam Higbee has been a good follow throughout this thing. He's had a lot of good videos and good reporting. The streets in LA belong to the rioters. Here's the interesting thing to me, guys, is that I didn't see the way you know this is AstroTurf is that you didn't see the rioting going on. The looting going on that we saw in the Summer of Love. Now, that's not to say that we won't see it next weekend, right? Things might settle down. Well, I know, but it was very small. It was like convenience stores. It wasn't like
looting video we saw happen live, and it was the guy who stole 2 cases of beer, then got back in his wheelchair.
It's happening, Scott. It is happening. They're not showing it.
No, like we saw it. There were several stores broken into last night. It wasn't quite as large.
I know there was
the beginnings, and it wasn't just convenience stores. It was jewelry stores and shoe stores and a bunch of other stuff.
I saw that there was an Adidas and there were a couple others, but my point is it just didn't seem as widespread. Like the point of people going out was not, and that's when you start getting these organic people who are coming for their own interests, not for, because they're going to be paid by Act Blue or whatever.
Organic people. It's the first time I've ever heard them called that.
Well, they smell that way because I'm going to LA in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I
know
they smell that way.
The other side of this is, guys, it's the first week of summer. You got a bunch of kids that are back home. I mean, this was more entertaining than whatever was going on in their bedroom.
Yeah, and there's that, and also it's early in the season. This is actually the right season for LA. Getting into July, it's gonna be too damn hot to riot. But the weather's nice.
They like rioting in July. They like rioting in July. They like the summer.
They don't riot when it's cold. They don't riot when it's hot. You riot when they want to riot. I mean,
that's true. That's true. Let's see. Merc06 for $10 in the Rumble chat says they set the precedent in lawfare. Why can't we use the precedent the left has set? Serious question. Is it a moral thing?
It's because the right always takes the high ground when they shouldn't.
Well, the irony is if any right-leaning people ever went low, it would probably be the Trump administration. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see some targeted use of sedition and insurrection potentially.
I think what you're going to see is these people, let's be honest, even the people that the LA cops are arresting and the highway patrol are going to go and be released with no bail. Okay.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
I've actually got a video of one of them saying that deadpan to a reporter.
And so what's really got to happen is they need to have federal agents right there and apprehend them and charge them with federal crimes and take them to a federal court. And that is the way you bring an end to this. Once these people realize, like, gee, we're going to go to jail and the charges are real and the consequences are real.
10 years in prison. Yeah. 10 years in a federal prison ain't nothing.
Yeah. Then it starts becoming very real. And that's why I love what they've done with this Garcia guy, from Maryland, the father from Maryland. They were screaming and hollering, you got to bring him back. You got to bring him back. He deserves due process. They bring him back, and what do they do? They charge him with 9 counts of human trafficking.
Well, the irony is that when they finally bring him back, and then I think there was also some child charges and whatnot, and it's all of a sudden the Democrats are like, we never defended this guy. Bullshit. Bullshit. You defended that guy. He was your boy for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. We got another one. Protesters waved Mexican flag in front of a burning Waymo vehicle. Multiple vehicles have been destroyed. No police presence in this affected area.
Before we move on, I want to say that it's important to note that this is why we need to designate Antifa either an interstate criminal organization or an international terrorist organization, because that makes the charges automatically federal.
Yeah. No police in sight. These are the kind of things that just are, it's like, I scratches my head. Why? Well, here's the other thing too, is, the LAPD is actually smaller for its size of the size of city than other police departments. And one of the things that it makes me wonder why they never considered this, but they don't have any kind of there's very little inherent riot training in these, in American police departments. I mean, Joe, you know how it is. I mean, it's like rioting is just not something that we've seen that's been widespread over the last 30 years or so, since the end of the Vietnam War. So this is not a skill set that you seem to it's like let me give you an example. The South Korean police are very adept at riot control, right? Like they have like entire platoons of riot cops that do nothing but train riot suppression and things like that. You just don't have that in American police.
I don't know if that's true. I know that everyone when they go through a police academy has to go through it, and then once you get assigned to a department, you have to go through whatever that regional mutual aid association's training is. But you're right. I don't think it's that regular. But I do know that some cities like New York, Chicago, LA, cities that have full-time SWAT, Grand Rapids, Michigan has full-time SWAT, DPD, full-time SWAT. Those guys do train on it, but not the entire force. And the LA Sheriff Special Reaction Team that we watched last night clearly was pretty well trained on it, and they did it. But it is not like Korea. Korea has they have what they call the combat police, which is entirely
focused. Yeah, exactly right. They actually have what's called the national, the KNP, Korean National Police, and it's part of their kind of selective service essentially, where all males have to do national service. So you can either do an Air Force, Navy, Army, or the KNP. So it's a different kind of paradigm.
What I'm enjoying a lot is I don't know if you guys follow Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer.
Yeah, Laura Loomer.
I run hot and cold with her, depending on the day. She took a picture of somebody, took one of the pictures that they're saying they wanted a $50,000 reward, zoomed in on his baseball cap, saw the minor league team or the little local team he played for, found their picture on Facebook, sent it to the FBI because the guy's in the picture.
Wow.
And you put out a $50,000 reward, you're going to get a whole lot of citizens going, hey, sign me up. I'll turn in people.
Civilians that have access to, let's just say, various systems they probably shouldn't, also tracked him down via cell phone pings before the reward was even offered.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that these people they're not smart enough to do what Joe always says, leave their devices at home. They don't do that. They go in and take them with them, and it's going to cause some problems.
If I may make an observation, part of what makes these people eminently weaponizable is the fact that they subscribe to a consensus reality filter, and they don't realize that they're still not in the majority.
Yeah, well, that's just it. And when you're inside of an information bubble, you think that you are in some sort of a stronger majority position, when in point of fact you're actually in a diminishing minority, especially based on what we saw for the last 4 years during the Biden administration. And this is the reason why everybody was so shocked that Trump won. How come Harris didn't win? I mean, now let's be honest. Anybody who had been watching the real news knew what was going to happen. But ultimately, there were just a lot of people that were just shocked because they live in a freaking echo chamber.
Diatica makes a point here. They don't believe they'll do any time for this. Watcher and I shared an interview last night. Watcher found it with one of the guys arrested on Saturday night, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, "Look, no one's going to show up for court. And I'm not going to get charged for this." He knows that he's taking a ride. And he's going to be let go in an hour or two, and nothing is ever going to come of it. That's the problem. Until that changes, there's no risk to these people. They're out there playing a game, thinking this is all fun and games. And so one of them gets shot, then we're going to have a real problem.
Well, but see,
I
that's
did enjoy the Australian news journalist who was out there
Okay.
covering it, and she got shot. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I just saw that earlier. Somebody shared that in the chat. The reporter's out there talking, and the cop just turns the rubber bullet shotgun at her, and pow!
yeah, like right in the foot.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just want to just to kind of show what I'm talking about, guys. I want to share this video. Watcher, I'm putting it in the private chat. Imagine if these cops showed up on Saturday or maybe on Sunday. So these are this is KMP. This is a training event, so you can see the type of response that you would get from the KMP if you were being a. Let's get ready. It's like the fucking Roman Legion, the way they are able to like move around in like formation and like just snap into formation like this. That's a lot of training, just to be able to do something like that. Then they have a second line come in. And then they have it. They've just like in medieval warfare, they have it to where the front line, drops back because they've been pushing with those shields and everything. Now they can spread out. Now these are like what flanking.
Now the
maneuvers?
cavalry's going for the flanks.
Exactly right. I mean, these are literally, and so they're kettling in those guys, the violent guys, to segregate them off and arrest them and separate them from maybe the more timid group.
You know who trains like this in the U.S.? The military police, mostly National Guard, but also regular Army and Marine Corps military police train on this.
You know, the irony is, Joe, is that the National Guard did a lot of this kind of stuff when I was in the National Guard back in the day, and like we did it at a state prison for an execution. For prison, to push back against prison riots and things like this. See, so they've got these buses with the kind of the cages, and they're able to kind of like use these as like makeshift walls and stuff like this. And it's just, I mean, really coordinated. And, like, I'll be honest with you, like, the military police I know do some of this type of training, but ultimately, like, we don't do like riot control vehicles, like the water cannons. That's something that kind of went out with the civil rights era.
Hear me out. Water cannon, but filled with gasoline.
Yeah, it's called a flamethrower.
Truck with a water cannon on it right now, and I can walk to it.
Joe, did you see? I don't know if you saw the video of the little kid with a leaf blower and a big orange. It's a big orange fabric tunnel or whatever, and he's going around like it's a fabric flamethrower, and he's like, look at me, Dad, I'm in Iwo Jima, I'm a Marine in Iwo Jima.
Well, that's dangerous now, given the fact that a dude just was fire with one. But yeah,
the part of all of this that's frustrating is when you listen to the left talk. They're going, you can't take all these people away, because if you do, who's going to do all of our work?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're really talking like a fringe of indentured servitude / slavery here. Like, I don't want to spend money to have somebody clean my house who's an American. It's going to cost me more. So you should look the other way. And it's like, no, we're not going to look the other way. We voted for this. This is exactly what we voted for, was to have these people deported. And if you're going to make it easier by showing up in large groups and waving flags, thank you very much.
I actually think that there's two sides of this, because if you listen to the same people, they'll talk out both sides of their mouth about this. it's half that they want the thing for cheap. The other half of it is legitimately that they don't want the people who occupy those positions in their society to have any power, authority, or money. They don't want the tradesmen to be able to be on par with them. They don't see that that's fair after they earned their degree.
Well, but you know, the irony is that they can't even do a good job. And I think, Blaine, you put your finger right on it. They can't even hide their real intent here. It's not some sort of human, we believe in the human rights. We actually want to exploit these people. And by you enforcing their human rights, by sending them back to their home country and not letting us to exploit them, you're now making our life worse.
Yeah.
So
this will hurt Gavin Newsom so well.
So
when he tries to
comment right there, Rowan just gave me an idea. Water cannon filled with Malort. Hunch, when you get out here in July, we've got some work to do on the fire engine. I'm just saying.
There you go.
But the water cannon works, so all I got to do is fill it.
Well, I like it. It's one of the Asian countries where they do that. They do it with a dye so that it doesn't wash out. You know, you can't get the dye off your skin.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, I'm all in favor of that because that makes it easy too.
So here's UV dye with this UV light for that purpose. You think it's washed off, and then they shine a light on you, and it's not, and you're the guy they're looking for.
So I thought this was interesting. Want to make sure we get this. This is the next video up in the queue, and this is so several people were hurt kind of bad, and mostly it was cops. And this is the two probably worst. This was a couple of motorcycle attacks that happened in the middle of the crowd.
Oh yeah.
So that was one, and here comes two.
I'm sorry. I find that funny. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry at all.
Yeah.
That last comment, Your Honor. That was funny.
Stupid. Yeah.
The guys getting taken out were pretty good, but two cops ended up having to get sent to the hospital for that one.
No, that's terrible. But honestly, the fact that they knocked these guys off their bikes, you know, they've lost their bikes as a result of this, probably because somebody in the crowd will steal it. And these guys are injured.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I thought was interesting is that you saw this divide between LA County sheriffs who basically said, we don't have anything to do with the feds activities or anything like that. We're here just to kind of police the area, and that we don't support. Was it LAP? Well, I know this.
Yeah, that was LAPD. The sheriffs were out there day one, even though the sheriff sent his guys out there, even when the governor and the mayor told him no.
No, this wasn't a spokesperson. This was like a guy on the line, like
that is what I'm saying is that like the sheriff had his guys out on the line even day one when the governor and the mayor both had prevented all other law enforcement from responding.
I guess my point is that the ones that were out there in the LAPD sheriffs, they basically said, listen, we're not here to, impede the riot, or basically they weren't siding with the feds, which I thought was concerning because clearly these people were breaking the law right in front of them. And the other thing that I saw was that some of these are LA County sheriffs again, had got tear gas or whatever in their eye. And the locals were doing the whole milk treatment, kind of helping them out and things like that because, they perceived them as more sympathetic than the feds or whatever. So
Yeah, it was a Mexican restaurant. They got pepper sprayed and they ran into a Mexican restaurant that ended up treating them. It was pretty cool.
All right. Did you want to show that guy in the minivan that got caught in the street and started doing like reverse donuts to try to get the people off of him?
That was the funnest event of the
So-
night. The plot twist at the end was the wildest thing, though.
Yeah, so there's a question about
Yeah, I
what
haven't seen
what is
That's
actually, because this was, so I've got the clip, but this is not the actual start of this incident.
I actually came up with the idea that he may have been a paid agitator, and that's why he had a vehicle parked somewhere else.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird
Yeah.
stuff with this. So the donuts started after they were already throwing rocks at him, and he'd already been traveling for a while.
Most interesting,
even that deployment, which
before we
was
start,
by the-
what's interesting is that in the end, you see him interact with LAPD, and they wave him off, and LASD swoops him up. That is a big problem in LA right now. The police department, just like Scott pointed out, is just there to be neutral. The sheriff's department is there to actually enforce the law.
Yeah, I don't think this video will go that far, but we'll see.
So you're seeing
It
some.
looks like it's
this
just
is
that
live.
first
Yeah, you're
roundabout
seeing not
incident,
great
and like if you remember
contact, and
that
I wonder where the
we
police
watched
are
him
there.
for 20 minutes before
But
they finally took him.
you're seeing.
I wondered if like there was something wrong with the guy at first when this happened.
Oh, no,
Like,
for sure.
like,
No,
that
no.
hit.
Nice.
Dude was for sure on some kind of drugs. That's
And-
not even a question.
And
But there's a lot of questions about like, look, he looked like he might have been trying to hit somebody there, but also he didn't hit anybody there. And he had a lot of opportunities throughout this entire thing that we watched to hit people. And although he kept staying really close to people and going on footpaths, he never looked like he hit anybody. It's real weird. Like I think he might have been part of the protests, got high on something, and then just had a freak out.
If you go to the next link, there's a lot of Mexican flags out there, but this was the one that I kind of like raised my eyebrows. Yeah, there he is. Flying the
Antifa's
Soviet
in the
flag.
house.
Right now, there's a
Antifa's in the
furious
house.
man in the Chinese consulate going, "I told them no Soviet flag." Anyway,
At least it's not a CCP flag. By the way, there's a factory here that flies a CCP flag from time to time. I think I always indignantly point it out to my family when we drive past, and my daughter's like, "Shut up, Dad. Nobody cares."
it was going to be
Look,
one in Michigan, but
I just want to point out that this patrol vehicle did nothing wrong. He was a good boy. He did nothing wrong.
so Watcher, that shows that those all say highway patrol too. By the way,
Yeah, it does. Yep, you're right. So good. I'm glad CHP actually participated because I was worried there for a while that was just LAPD. That also explains how amateur the response was.
I took it hard last night, man.
I know. What is Ponch and John out there? Are they? I guess they're on reserve duty now. They're too old.
That front one is the truck that ends up getting burned to the ground.
See, Joe and I are a little bit older, so I'll just throw out the call sign 1 Adam 12.
Yeah, 1 out of 12. 1 out of 12. That's right. And Guerrera always was a hard ass, but
He was the best, man.
So, and I've heard a lot of people ask where all these rocks are coming from. If you watch,
there's actually
just to show
cobblestones.
you.
There's actually cobblestones like catty corner on a footpath or something that they start.
Is that? I think the majority of them though are coming from. There's these
From these
areas
stone-
in
yeah.
LA where they do these
Well, right.
giant
Here,
pours.
push pause right here. So see these? No, go back where you can see the other side of the street. Yeah, see these bollards right here.
Well,
These are concrete bollards that they were smashing up.
Yeah, that's a
and-
bit of it. But the majority of them comes from kind of these areas. They do these giant pours for these drainage areas, and they leave the edges rough. And so they then come along with hammers and break up the rough edges and take large blocks, break them into small blocks, and then push those forward to the front line.
Well, I also
They
saw
had
there's
guys that
some
were standing in those
cobblestones.
production lines.
There's like some footpaths or in that near there or whatever, somewhere around there that had some cobblestones that I saw they were pulling up.
They were essentially tearing up any piece of the city they could get at.
Waymo just announced that they shut down LA
We knew
operations.
that was coming. We knew that was coming.
Those, by the way, those cars with all that shit on them are not cheap.
They're like $250,000 a piece with all the sensors.
Oh yeah.
That's actually one of the reasons why Tesla, I think Tesla is probably going to be because their self-driving cars are so much cheaper than.
Look, yeah, but specifically, why are they cheaper? Because they did the only
They don't have
obvious
LiDAR.
thing that everybody should have Yeah, exactly. Everybody should have understood from the beginning that literally all you needed to do the self-driving thing was the optical sensors and maybe a radar sensor. Like the LiDAR was entirely unnecessary. It's so overkill.
All right, so that's nerd moment of the day for us. Let's go on to the next video.
It's relevant because there's a lot of people theorizing that the reason these are getting destroyed, and it's probably correct, is that the Waymos can sense everything. Like there are patents on the Waymos for stuff that can sense like weapons concealed in people's cars and or on their bodies. Like, and it's mapping everything constantly. So I'm glad that Waymo is not the way self-driving cars go.
Well, like I said, that's owned by Google, and Google that Waymo is a bigger part of their whole kind of AI strategy. So, hey Joe, this next one, I'll let you kind of comment on this.
Oh, this is excuse me. This is the Reconquista, and this is this actually looks almost exactly like the cover of the Matt Bracken book. I think it's called the Reconquista.
Domestic. It was it,
or was it domestic terror? Domestic, I don't know. Not enemies, foreign and domestic, but the one after that. But anyway, it's about the Mexican attempt at a Reconquista. This is something that's cartel sponsored, and is a big piece of Mexican pride. They believe strongly that all that land is actually theirs anyway, so they should be able to take it back. But most maps of this actually go all the way up into Washington State, but this one doesn't. But if people are calling for this, then this is what Claudia Scheinbaum was referencing when she said they need to mobilize troops and all that kind of stuff. This could spread to a little bit bigger thing. And one of the issues I pointed out over the weekend is that you really are on the precipice of civil conflict. This is the beginning stages of it. This is your burning Kansas right here.
Well, go ahead, Blaine.
I can just say this. I look forward to the vaunted Mexican armored division crossing into Texas because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I said earlier, 3 hours later, we returned to base and the Mexican army is a smoking ruin.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so this is, like I said earlier, Blaine, this is light work for the boys at Pendleton with some air support from North Island, probably afternoon's business. Hell, they're already in position. So this is this was titled where is this one? This is the Podesta War Games are now live. This is Alex Jones. If you can see the InfoWars thing down at the bottom, this is Alex Jones saying top Democratic architects' only words expose a manual for staged civil unrest to bait the U.S. military into responding, which will provide the smokescreen to launch a coup on the president of the United States of America.
All I want is a good gunship and 10 minutes over L.A. Spooky support there. Poof.
Yeah, this is an interesting. So here's the other thing too. This looks like there was a lot of like different places and a lot of people, but it was a really limited kind of local area, and these were specific people who. Now I would say maybe at the most 50% of these people are kind of organic, kind of people who showed up versus
remember boredom.
Well, no, I got it. My point is that like, if you are a paid protester and four friends that that will come out, then those kind of still count as brought in by the organization versus, people who just see it on the internet and come in because they're interested.
See,
Like
that's
a lot of these are,
Highway Patrol was trying to clear the highway.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, this is before all that happened later.
do they have a referral bonus in the paid protester program? Like, if I bring 5 friends, do I get $25 per friend?
Yeah. I mean, maybe we need to look into this, Joe. I mean, there might be a
This could be a money making opportunity, because I'll refer all the people I don't like.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll bring all the illegal immigrants from Kalispell and we'll bring them down to LA and then leave them there.
Too late. They all got arrested.
We're missing what's the real underlying thing. There's a Mexican flag company that did this all to cash in.
Yeah. That weird tripartite flag that I don't know if you guys have seen is really weird. It's like the American flag, the Mexican flag, and it's blending the two, and then sometimes there's a third one tossed in there. I hate it. It's awful. We were actually playing a game where Chet had to take a drink if they saw an actual American flag and it was waved by a protester. There were two.
Yeah.
In 11 hours.
Well, the only American flags I saw were the ones that were being burned.
No, there were 2 guys.
No, there were 2 guys later. There was 1 guy and 1 girl, and the other one that we played was how long will it take for X dumpster to be put on fire, and it was always under 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, way. As soon as the dumpster came into play, man, that thing's lifespan was not long.
All I remember is
as a joke the first time. It was like, how long do you guys think before that one goes on there? And everyone starts putting their bets in there. Then we pan back through there. I'm like, oh, look, it's on fire.
This has been disappointing for me in some respects, because for 4 years, all I heard was right-wing nationalists are the trouble. It's the Patriotic Front. This was the Patriotic Front's chance to really shine, okay?
Right.
Show up and bust some heads and stuff. And they're nowhere. I didn't see khaki pants at all. And I'm really disappointed.
And you're not going to. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing. I'll tell you, this is how I can prove to you that Patriot Front's not a real thing. Their flag, compare the flag that they carry to the Ohio state flag. And when you realize that they are the same flag, you realize that they are exactly as real as Ohio.
I'll tell you this about the closest thing I saw, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Although, again, I think this was the night before. This was not.
Yeah, this was Saturday night.
Oh, they're coming.
Release bracket.
They're coming out. They're coming out. Watch out! Fuck you!
Is it wrong that I want
to? We watched that live, and it's every bit as funny this time as it was the first time.
Did that camera lens take one to the actual lens there at the end? It looked like it did.
There was another angle too that's more zoomed out. And once those first 15 or 20 guys with the pepper ball guns spread out, just a crowd of about 100 officers runs out and just starts laying waste to people. And it was glorious.
Tipman stock going up.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. All right.
Afghanistan is going on. Very good. Very good.
Let's see. I'm just kind of going through the links here. Yeah, you just got that one. Go to the next one here.
Needs to be arrested.
Yeah. This is how you know there's more to this than what meets the eye.
They know how quickly we mobilize. That's why they're changing tactics. Because community defense works and our resistance has slowed them down before. And if they're escalating their tactics, then so are we. When they show up, we gotta show up even stronger.
That's insurrection.
Okay.
That's
the only thing she's ever done quickly is digest a Whopper.
I was gonna say she showed up at the Dunkin' Donuts pretty early.
Actually, we saw, I wonder how much weight she lost over the weekend, because Watcher and I saw her walking several times this weekend with a microphone in her hand. So maybe she's dropped a couple pounds.
She's getting her steps in, but the problem is after she watched those cars burn, she went over into that big donut shop in the background of that one page.
Disparage Dale's donuts like that.
Yeah, I was not impressed by the police control. I feel like when they were aggressive, they were almost I won't say too aggressive, but just were uncoordinated. And there was a lot of LAPD getting pushed back.
Well, that's because LAPD's heart isn't in it. The ones who were really making some legit work was the sheriff's department, and they did some good work pushing crowds back and moving them.
I hate to say it, maybe we need to bring back the '80s LAPD.
Okay. Oh, hold on a second. Well, I'm telling you right now, some of the '70s LAPD was there, if only on the upper lips of some of those officers. It was amazing.
Well, I was talking about like the Rampart Division stuff. I know it might be too early for you, Watcher.
Real quick, this is too good. Listen, Cowboy, you give me an idea here. Trump now has the opportunity to do the funniest thing imaginable.
Nice for the Stay Puffed woman to be a motivational speaker. That's very good.
It's going to drop parachute in RFK.
Turn it from a national protest to a national mandatory exercise summer. Next is interesting because we've actually captured a video of Jason Bourne.
Oh yeah. She's like, I've never been punched in the face before. He's like, he pulls his pants up as he gets away. He
gets away.
Something tells me he's done this before.
Bike cops, man. I'm telling you.
Oh my God, I've never been hit in the face before.
And if you zoom in, he actually takes the wallet of the one cop.
It is still funny on the 936th time I've seen it.
That's funny.
Never fight a meth head, man. Never fight a meth head.
Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, so this is the LAPD like press conference, I think here. This is just pathetic.
But when I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, that's not the people that we see during the day who are legitimately out there exercising their First Amendment rights and to be able to express their.
Hold up. Pause. Chat. The hour and a half break at 6 when most of the people went home and suddenly came back and showed up in black bloc gear proves that to be a lie.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Those highway patrol guys were trapped under that overpass and could have been killed by the rocks that were being thrown at them during the middle of the day. So this is not like the violence was not a nighttime only type of thing.
Well, and Karen Bass continued to say, even late into the night, we saw her at 11 p.m. her time, saying that there was no violence. There were peaceful protests.
Was this a siesta thing?
Yes.
Sorry.
People who are all hooded up. They've got a hoodie on. They've got face masks on. They're people who do this all the time. Get away with whatever they can. Go out there, from one civil unrest situation to another, using the same or similar tactics frequently, and they are connected. Some would call them anarchists or by any other variety of names, but they're people that we run across routinely city to city, and this is what they do. So even more disgusting that many of the people who are doing this come in from other places just to hurt people and to cause havoc.
So police of a major department or PIO of a major department refusing to say the word Antifa.
Yeah.
Instead, he uses the word anarchist. Antifa aren't really anarchists. They actually are authoritarians. They want to be in charge, just as Blaine points out in the Blue Dawn series, right? They want to be the social enforcement. They want to be the ones telling you what you can and cannot do. They're not anarchists.
Darth, nobody here's deleting comment. Like, I can't speak for all of our moderators because we do have moderators. Like, anybody with a wrench is a moderator, but none of us are deleting your comments. I didn't even notice it. Also, funny name, Darth Doodle, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, man. I don't know that any of your comments have been erased.
Yeah, it may disappear like in YouTube or whatever, but it doesn't disappear from the StreamYard.
I had somebody saying this yesterday where they were saying stuff that shouldn't have been censored, but all of a sudden they were disappearing, and it wasn't any of my mods. So I wonder if YouTube's going to harden the paint again.
Yeah, you got to remember, dude, you're on YouTube, and YouTube will do that, like auto censors things from time to time.
Yeah,
but we are streaming on Rumble and X.
Are showing on my screen. I mean, it would tell us if somebody had deleted your message, and we don't see it.
Yeah,
but we are streaming on Rumble and X. So if you want to be uncensored, those are probably much better platforms for you.
So I want to read this kind of this is the little kind of capsule story that goes with this video that we just watched. I want to read this to you guys. LAPD chief admits professional left-wing anarchists are fueling violence of the Los Angeles riots. This reeks of a Soros ops. Yeah, so somebody is providing the money to bring in the pros, right? And there are professional protesters who can get someplace within 12 hours. Like, you know, they show up with their helmet and all this kind of stuff. LA Police Chief Jim McDonald just exposed what many suspected: the chaos unfolding in Los Angeles is escalated by professional left-wing agitators. When I look at the people who are out there doing the violence, we already saw that. That's just the quotes. This isn't spontaneous. It's organized, and it's designed to burn the city to the ground. Right. And it'll be interesting to see if we see another day of this here on Monday, or if it kind of settles down during the work week.
I found a clip that we were asking for earlier that I just it's too good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I love that.
We even got slow-mo.
This
show. Yeah, see, this could actually get our show struck, whereas the thing that got our show struck last time, we shouldn't have got our show struck.
She had been ordered to move several times. She chose to ignore them to do her newscast. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, this is just another view of the highway patrol. This last video here. You know, I'll be honest with you. This is where you get kind of you. This is where you pull your gun out. If they're literally throwing things at you that could hurt you, or kill you.
Raza right there.
Yeah, Raza. Yeah.
Well, I should be clear. By the time this video is being taken, they had already been under there being pelted by rocks for probably an hour.
Yeah, that was before they set it on fire. But yes.
So yeah, they were under there getting effed up for six plus hours.
Gentlemen, that's all I got for today. We'll go down the horn real quick. Joe, where do you think we're going to go the rest of this week with this? I expand to other cities, more in LA. Where do you think it's going?
Today's going to be telling. I think it's going to expand to more cities, but on a more limited scale until Saturday. Saturday, the chains are going to come off. They've had this protest planned for weeks. This only gives it that much more legs. And much more incentive. So I would watch for Saturday's No Kings protests. Go to nokings.org and see what protests are along your route for the weekend. So that's going to be a big thing. What will really amp this up, and I know Donald Trump can't resist, so it's coming because he likes the spectacle as much as anyone else, would be more ICE raids in LA midweek. And I would expect to see those start maybe later today or sometime tomorrow. And that will actually push this thing through the roof. So I don't know, but I would definitely be watching for Saturday.
One of the things that Ty says, I bet black street gangs are having a field day. I have not seen that. It's almost been entirely Latino driven, as far as the kind of the intersectional, identitarian politics go. That said, if the black community doesn't seem to be, emotionally engaged in this issue the way the Latino community is.
I don't know how to bring this up to you, but if you've ever hung out around both of those communities in conjunction with each other, you might know that there is some non-small amount of enmity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I even saw a video. This was a soldier. He said, how have they managed to push the black nationalists and the white nationalists into the same group? And his message was, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I love this country, and if you keep acting this way, there's going to be a reckoning, and it'll be from a guy who looks like me, not a white guy or something like that.
Oh, make no mistake, it's not revenge he's after; it's a reckoning.
It's a reckoning.
Great line from a great movie.
Yeah. Well, good question, Ambo's Currency. If I remember correctly, the riot, the looting that I did see yesterday was of the non-Latino flavor. Blaine, where's your kind of take on this going?
I tend to agree with Joe. I think a lot's going to depend on, they now know that Trump is going to respond, and he's going to respond with force. That being the case, I just don't think that they're going to push the buttons as much until they can do it in a very large scale, out of control manner. I think this is a week where Donald Trump's going to have to address the Antifa issue.
Did you see that airbag go off when he jumped in the car? I'm sorry, Blaine, but that was, back that up. He jumped in to try and get the shotgun out, I think, and they dropped the brick on top, and the airbag went off as soon as he got in.
Yeah, that's right, because it came out the front windshield.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Watcher?
Yeah. I think that the only real viable strategy going forward is Trump needs to set victory conditions. He needs to make it very clear what's going to happen moving forward and what the consequences are going to be. He's allowed things to be fairly nebulous, which is a good negotiating tactic for a lot of this, but he actually needs to set out a clear, hey, we're not like, whatever it is he decides, right? But it needs to be stated clearly, and then it needs to be followed through on. Weirdly, he needs to be the stable parent these children never had and are so clearly desperately calling out for.
Yeah. I think I think what we'll see now is essentially a re-intensification of the ICE operations, in some of these larger urban areas, because in a way, I think Trump wants, this is a fight Trump wants, because it's one that we've all voted for, right? Both the deportation operations, and also when Antifa shows up, we want to see some skulls cracked. And so we want to see some people go to jail. And I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see something this week where they're going to, talk about interstate criminal organization. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some official designation for Antifa. And if they can prove that you came into these riots from out of town, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see some. The problem is they gotta nab them first. So we may see a replay of where the feds were basically going up to people 2 days later and just and bundling them off into a Fed van and disappearing them into the federal building. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't start seeing that over the next couple of days. So. Gentlemen, that's all I got. Thank you for being here. Blaine, we didn't throw the bat signal your way, but you're always welcome. And I knew you wouldn't miss this. I was kind of hoping you'd show up. So I'm glad you did. they definitely are validating a lot of your predictive programming from Blue Dawn. That's one of the reasons why I started kind of like I want to get ready for the next one that I haven't read. So I was going back to the last one to kind of refresh my memory. You know how that is when you have these series books. You really need to know what just happened in the previous book in order to jump right into the next one. So I appreciate your work there. Joe, Tactical Dash Wisdom, that you get is that new the new one you wrote that's up now, right? That came out over the weekend, right? Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I think we need to make sure that if Watcher, can you drop that link in the chat for me? I want to make sure people read that one. The new blog on Joe's website.
Oh,
or if Joe,
yes.
Or if Joe, you got whoever can get it quicker and put it in the chat, I would appreciate that because I think that's I wanted to call attention to that. Guys, that's all I got for today. Watcher, thank you. Chat, you guys are awesome as always. Watcher, you did a great job over the weekend, so hopefully we get to see some more of that as the week and weekend goes on. So
Say hi to
is that your better half there?
Yeah, she's hiding. She doesn't want you to see her.
I just got
Tell
back
her-
from
tell-
the end.
Well, hello.
Tell her I said hi. Long time no see. Yeah, chat, you wouldn't believe Blaine. I don't know how guys like us do it, but Blaine literally just blew the marriage pool out of the water. He has the most wonderful, beautiful wife. So you done well, boy.
A little credit here too, because at first she was just going to drop Blaine off, but then she met us and she was like, you know what?
I'm going to hang around. She's like, I didn't realize your friends were cool.
You had her at 2 words, Derby Pie.
I know. Oh my God. That was the whole point of having Derby Pie there. I just wanted to say. All right. That's all we got for today. Thank you, Blaine, for showing up. Joe, Watcher, as always, it was a pleasure. Chat, you guys are killing it. If you haven't done it already, please. Oh, low-key LARP just at the very end drops a 50 bomb. Thanks for keeping us informed. No, brother, thank you for supporting what we do here. That really helps. It means a lot. You know, when we see our numbers on YouTube getting suppressed and things like that, your guys' support really helps. So thank you very much. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel. Like the video, share the link with your friends. Let them know you're getting some good info and analysis from the Future Conflict channel. We'll be here for the rest of the week. If we need to do some supplemental stuff, we will try to do that. But until then, as always, stay safe.